All right. Today we're venturing into a world where even the most seasoned adventurer might think twice before drawing their sword.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
talking about Dark Sun,
Okay.
a Dungeons and Dragons setting where the line between hero and villain it blurs faster than an Oasis mirage.
It really makes you question the classic fantasy tropes, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Forget rolling green hills and benevolent rulers. Think desolate deserts ruled by powerful sorcerer kings, where every spell cast it chips away at a dying world.
Yeah.
It's bleak, it's brutal, but it's utterly captivating. Now, this isn't our first foray into the world of tabletop gaming, but to guide us through this particularly harsh landscape, we're diving deep into an article from Lit RPG Reads, RPG Legends, Dark Sun by Paul Bellow.
Oh, cool.
So what's the deal with Athas, this world teetering on the brink? What makes it tick, or should I say, struggle to survive?
Survival. That's the core of Athas. See, magic here is directly tied to the life force of the world itself. Every spell, every enchantment, it drains a little more life from the planet, turning fertile lands into desolate wastelands.
Okay, let's unpack this. We're talking about defilers and preservers, right?
Mm-hmm.
That choice seems pretty crucial for anyone wielding magic in Athas.
It's not just a choice, it's woven into the very fabric of this setting.
Right.
Imagine a world where casting a fireball isn't just about the immediate damage, but about the long-term consequences. Withering plants, poisoning water, pushing the world closer to oblivion. That's the reality for magic users in Athas. Preservers, they try to find ways to minimize their impact, drawing power from already dead creatures or using rituals that don't scar the land further. But defilers, they're the ones who say, to hell with the consequences. I need power, and I'll take it however I can get it.
Yeah, I can see how the very magic system itself sets a different tone for the entire world. But it's not just the environment feeling the strain, is it?
Yeah.
You mentioned Sorcerer Kings. They sound like they're at the top of this power struggle.
They are.
Yeah.
Imagine the most ambitious tyrant you can think of, someone who embodies ruthlessness, a hunger for power that dwarfs any sense of compassion.
Right.
Now, give them the ability to drain the life force of their subjects to fuel their magic. That's a Sorcerer King in a nutshell.
So we've got a land on the brink, ruled over by individuals who wield power as destructively as any natural disaster.
Yeah.
It almost feels like there's no room for hope in a world like this.
Yeah.
And yet, the article mentions that Dark Sun has been around for decades, evolving with each edition of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
It's like this harsh landscape has a story of its own to tell.
It does. And what's fascinating is how each edition of D&D reflects a different chapter in Athas' story. Second edition was its first real introduction. We saw the region of Tyr, where the weight of oppression was heavy, but there was this flicker of defiance, a sense that maybe, just maybe, the Sorcerer Kings could be overthrown. A glimmer of hope in a world starving for it.
A glimmer of hope.
Yeah.
That's rare in a place like this. Did that hope survive in later editions?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. Third edition saw the world of Athas. Well, it doubled down on the darkness.
Yeah.
Fan efforts kept the setting alive, but even those stories, they seem to reflect a sense of despair. Some city-states fell to the undead.
Oh, wow.
Their sorcerer kings, twisted parodies of life clinging to power. Others were ruled by madmen, driven to insanity by the corrupting influence of their own magic.
It's almost as if the world itself was reflecting the anxieties of the real world, becoming a canvas for exploring those darker themes. Did that trend continue in 4th edition?
4th edition was a bit of a reset.
Okay.
Wizards of the Coast.
Right.
D&D's publisher officially brought Dark Sun back, but with a streamlined lore and mechanics.
Right.
It was their way of making the setting more accessible to newer players, though some diehard fans felt it lost a bit of its edge.
A classic conundrum. Streamline for a broader audience, or risk alienating those who love the original gritty charm.
Right.
It's interesting how even those publishing decisions reflect this tension between accessibility and preserving that core darkness of Dark Sun.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the people trying to eke out an existence in this world. The article mentions some pretty wild adaptations, even for seasoned D&D veterans like myself. What kind of races are we talking about here?
We're talking about creatures shaped by hardship, where even the familiar races have a distinctly Athasian twist.
Okay.
You'll find dwarves here. But forget the flowing beards and love of mountains. These dwarves are hairless, their bodies toughened by the relentless sun. And halflings, don't let their size fool you. In Athas, they're the oldest race, driven to scavenging and even cannibalism to survive.
Hairless dwarves and cannibal halflings. It's like the world itself breeds extremes. But Athas isn't just about twisting the familiar, is it?
Oh.
There are some truly unique races that call this world home. Races you wouldn't find in your typical high fantasy setting.
Precisely. The thri-kreen, for example. Imagine intelligent insectoids
Okay.
resembling praying mantises, as deadly as they are resourceful.
Wow.
Their culture is alien to most humanoids.
Right.
They value the collective over the individual, and their sense of morality is as harsh and unforgiving as the desert itself. And then there are the Terrans, the reptilian people who've carved out a life in the few remaining fertile regions. They're masters of survival, adapting to the harshest environments, their culture built on resourcefulness and a deep connection to the land.
It's fascinating how even the races of Athas challenge our preconceived notions of fantasy. It's not just about orcs and elves, good and evil.
Yeah.
It's about creatures pushed to the brink, forced to adapt or perish. And that brings us to the classes.
Right.
If this is a world where magic can literally drain the life force of the planet, how does that affect those who wield it?
You'll find the core classes, but even they are subtly, and sometimes not so subtly, altered by the realities of Athas.
Right.
You mentioned paladins earlier, and it's worth reiterating. In a world starved of divine good, where even the gods seem absent or uncaring, there's simply no room for their brand of righteous fury. The very concept clashes with the core themes of Dark Sun.
So no shining knights in polished armor riding to the rescue.
Right.
What about the divine spellcasters who do exist, the clerics? Where do they draw their power in a world seemingly abandoned by the gods?
Their faith isn't placed in deities, but in the elements themselves: fire, water, earth, air. These are the primal forces shaping Athas, and the clerics tap into that raw power, drawing on the very essence of the world to fuel their spells. It's a relationship of respect, perhaps even a hint of fear, for the elements can be as destructive as they are life-giving.
It's almost like a more primal form of worship, a recognition that survival in Athas means understanding and placating these elemental forces. And what about psionics? The article mentioned they play a larger role in Dark Sun.
Ah, yes. Psionics. It's almost as if the absence of traditional deities has created a vacuum,
Right.
allowing psionic potential to flourish.
Okay.
In Athas, psionic power is more common, less understood, and often feared.
Yeah.
Many city-states keep a watchful eye on their psionic citizens,
Right.
recognizing their potential for both good and ill.
So you've got these potent psionic abilities simmering beneath the surface, Sorcerer Kings ruling with iron fists, and a magic system that literally devours the world. It's a setting ripe for storytelling, and it sounds like Dark Sun didn't just stay confined to the tabletop.
It certainly did not.
Tell me more about how this world expanded into other media.
It certainly did. The article specifically delves into the novels, highlighting 4 main cycles that really flesh out Athas.
4 cycles. That's dedication. Which one kicks things off?
The Prism Pentad, penned by Troy Denning,
Okay.
who was actually involved in the creation of the setting itself.
Oh, wow.
So you're getting a very authentic look at Dark Sun in these books.
Right from the source. What sort of stories do these novels tell?
The first cycle takes place in Tyr, the region we discussed earlier,
Right.
and it follows a group of heroes fighting for freedom against a tyrannical Sorcerer King.
Classic struggle against oppression, but with a distinct Dark Sun flavor, I imagine. What about the other cycles?
The Tribe of One trilogy centers around Sorak, a half-elf grappling with multiple personalities.
Oh, wow.
Talk about a unique character arc in a world already steeped in moral ambiguity. The Chronicles of Athas offer a series of standalone novels, giving readers glimpses into different facets of the setting. And then there are the newer independent stories, adding their own threads to the rich tapestry of Athas. But Dark Sun didn't just capture the imaginations of authors, it also caught the eye of video game developers.
Oh, do tell. I'm a sucker for a good RPG, even if they can be a bit rough around the edges sometimes.
Yeah.
What kind of digital adventures did they cook up for Dark Sun?
Well, there were a few attempts to bring the setting to life in the digital realm. Shattered Lands and its sequel Wake of the Ravager were early pioneers.
Okay.
But sadly, they were plagued by technical issues. Ambitious, yes, but perhaps a bit ahead of their time.
The plight of many early RPGs. Bold ideas shackled by technological limitations. But there were other attempts.
There was one that really aimed for the stars, Dark Sun Online, Crimson Sands. Okay, imagine, if you will, a world where players could interact in real time, their choices shaping the very fabric of Athas.
Right.
It even boasted player versus player combat,
Wow.
a feature that was pretty groundbreaking for its time.
It sounds like they were really trying to push the boundaries of what was possible in online gaming.
You were.
But it wasn't meant to be, was it?
Unfortunately, no. Technical hurdles and the ever-shifting landscape of the gaming industry led to its downfall.
Right.
But it's still a fascinating footnote in the history of Dark Sun, a testament to the desire to see this world fully realized in a digital space. And speaking of online gaming, there's even a fan-made module for Neverwinter Nights called Athas Reborn.
Wow. A testament to the enduring power of this setting. Even when official projects falter, the fans pick up the torch, keeping the spirit of Athas alive.
It really speaks volumes about the world that the creators built.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? We've talked about this world on the brink where magic is a double-edged sword and survival is a daily struggle. But is there room for hope in a place like Athas? Can a land so deeply scarred by magic ever truly heal? Or is simply enduring, scratching out a life against all odds, the greatest victory Athas can offer?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is survival enough? Or is there a chance, however slim, for something more?
It feels like even asking that question in a world as brutal as Athas is a victory in itself. But maybe that's the point. Maybe this setting, it forces us to confront the limitations of traditional fantasy tropes, to grapple with a reality where good and evil aren't so easily defined and where even the most powerful heroes are constantly tested by forces beyond their control.
It's a different kind of heroism, for sure.
Yeah.
Not about vanquishing evil in one fell swoop, but about carving out pockets of compassion,
Right.
finding moments of beauty in a world determined to grind you down.
Yeah.
And that's reflected in the stories that Dark Sun inspires, whether it's those struggling heroes battling against the odds, or even the villains wrestling with their own inner demons.
It makes you wonder what draws people to a setting like this. Why choose to explore such a harsh and unforgiving world?
Perhaps it's the very challenge that Athas presents, because when you strip away the romanticized notions of chivalry and magic, when you confront the very real consequences of power and the constant struggle for survival, it makes those moments of hope, those acts of defiance, all the more meaningful.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit, or perhaps even the dwarven or the Thri-kreen spirit, can find a way to endure, to adapt, and maybe, just maybe, to even find a glimmer of hope in the wasteland.
A glimmer of hope in the wasteland. That feels like a fitting epitaph for Dark Sun, don't you think? This brutal, beautiful, utterly captivating world that continues to intrigue and inspire, reminding us that even in the face of overwhelming darkness, the will to survive, to hope, can never be truly extinguished. So what do you think? Does a world like Athas offer a different kind of hope, or is survival the only victory worth fighting for? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, keep exploring those forgotten corners of the tabletop universe. And remember, the dice may be random, but the stories we create are ours to shape.